Hi everyone, welcome to the final video in this series. It looks at vocabulary, specifically vocabulary you can use for your structural sentences. These structural sentences are introductions, body paragraph, topic sentences, and conclusions. Don't feel that you have to copy and paste these structures, they're just here if you sort of have trouble getting those structural sentences right. So let's get straight into it. Paraphrasing arguments is a really important part of writing introductions. A lot of essays have an argument that we need to paraphrase. So this is an expression that I generally use to do that. So, for example, if the question was young people should be required to play sport, that's an argument, that's an opinion, right? So I would say some people believe that. That is a way that I could introduce an argument. And then you can see the part here in red, that can be changed to anything. In this case, I've said some people believe that it should be mandatory for children to play sports, but I could say some people believe that we need to do more to combat climate change. You could say some people believe that, basically subject verb after that. Paraphrase whatever the argument is, but some people believe is a good way to start. Some other expressions include it has been argued, or many people believe, many people think. Just play around with it to be slightly different from the question. When it comes to giving your opinion, if it's an essay that requires a strong opinion, where you're just going to look at one side, I like to go with a really simple sentence. I just say something like, I completely disagree with this point of view, or I completely agree with this point of view. You can use strongly as well if you want. Don't use totally. Totally is informal. I don't worry about giving my reasons for my opinion in the introduction. I just state what my position is, and then in the body paragraphs, I give my reasons. I recommend that you do that too. Sometimes you might want to give your opinion, but it'll be in an essay that contrasts two sides. So you're looking at two sides, one of them is your position. A good example of this would be an outweigh essay. So for example, for an outweigh essay, you can use the structure although X, so although the argument I don't agree with, I believe Y, which is the argument I agree with. So you can also use the structure while X, I'm of the opinion that Y. They're both the same thing, just in slightly different words. So an example introduction structure would be this. Although in some contexts nuclear energy is beneficial, I believe that this kind of technology is not the best choice in most situations. So you can see in the first part, although I acknowledge the first side, in some contexts, nuclear energy is beneficial, so sometimes, but I believe that this kind of technology is not the best choice in most situations. So although sometimes this one, I believe most times the other one. So that's what we're doing here with contrasting views. Although sometimes one side, I believe the other. Useful for when you look at two sides of something. It can also be useful for conclusions as well. Here's another example. Although in some contexts, rude communication is not appropriate, I believe that in most cases, this kind of speaking is actually beneficial. As you can see, although in some contexts, this position, I believe in most contexts, or most cases, this position. So I'm a little bit X, but I'm mostly Y. That's the idea of this kind of structure for an introduction. Another common kind of essay is a cause-effect essay. So what usually happens is you'll get a fact that you need to paraphrase. Then afterwards, you can say what your essay will do. I like to use this structure when I say what my essay will do. I say this essay will discuss the reasons why something, something, and explore something, something, something. So basically, this essay will discuss the reasons why this change has occurred, so that's the cause, and explore some of the positive effects people receive from going to new places. That's the effect. This essay will discuss the reasons why this change is happening, that's the cause, and suggest some solutions to the problem, that's the solutions. Another common essay question type is an advantages and disadvantages essay. These usually look like a fact first, and then they say discuss the advantages and disadvantages of it. So what you usually need to do is paraphrase the fact and then come in and say a structure like, this essay will discuss the benefits and drawbacks of whatever the issue is. X is whatever the issue is. So here's an example. This essay will discuss the benefits and drawbacks of mobile phones. Notice that's a noun structure. Okay. This essay will discuss the benefits and drawbacks of using social media. So it'll probably be a noun or a gerund, in other words, an ing if it's an action. So a noun, mobile phones, or a gerund using social media. Sometimes you might get a question that has two parts. The first question you get requires your ideas. So maybe the causes of something, the effects of something. And then the second question will require your opinion. For that sort of situation, this is a structure that might be useful for you. The structure is this essay will discuss whatever the issue is you're giving your ideas on and decide whether the issue that you're giving your position on. For example, let's say we're talking about nuclear energy. You could say this essay will discuss the dangers posed by its use, right? The dangers of nuclear energy, and decide whether it is beneficial or harmful for humanity. That would be giving the position. Another example here, this essay will discuss the reasons why people do this, whatever this is. Okay, the previous sentence will have discussed that when you paraphrase the fact and argument. And decide whether it will continue in the future. So in the example essay pack, you'll see, I'm pulling these examples from the example essay pack. So if you'd like more examples, that's a good place to go and find them. Let's move on to topic sentences now. Topic sentences, as you've probably seen from my other videos, are the first sentence of your body paragraphs. These are really important for framing your body paragraph to answer the question. Now, quite often the topic of a body paragraph will be the pros or the cons of something. Pros being the positives, cons being the negatives. So a really common structure I use to start my topic sentences is there are a number of, or several, issues, or drawbacks, or advantages, or benefits associated with X or whatever the issue is. So I'll give you an example now. There are several issues associated with, the issue might be nuclear energy. Of course, that could be changed to using social media, like the next example. There are a number of benefits associated with using social media. I often start my body one with one of these. Remember, this is just if it's for pros or cons. If you're talking about something slightly different, like a change in the future, that's not the same thing as a pro or a con. So make sure you don't start every paragraph with this structure because it might not work. Another really useful one for pros and cons is X has a number of or several drawbacks, issues, advantages, or benefits. So for example, same examples here, nuclear energy has a number of drawbacks. That could be has a number of issues or even advantages, number of benefits. Maybe it's slightly, it's a longer issue. So for example, transitioning from fossil fuels to green energy has several benefits. So these structures introduce advantages or disadvantages themed paragraphs. Maybe your paragraph is about causes of something. So not the pros, not the cons, but the causes. So a nice structure for topic sentences is there are several or a number of factors that, and then you have to complete the sentence with whatever issue you're talking about. For example, there are several factors that have caused young people to spend less time interacting with their friends in the real world. That's the issue. So we start several factors that, put the issue. Another one, there are a number of factors that have contributed to global warming. After that, you give your factors and then you have a nice body paragraph talking about causes. Another structure that does this job is X or issue for a number of reasons. For example, students cannot focus on their schoolwork properly these days for a number of reasons. And then you give your reasons. Reasons and causes are basically the same thing. Another example, the increasing use of social media is a concern. Why? For a number of reasons. And then the rest of the paragraph would give those reasons. Here's one more structure. There are a number of reasons why, whatever the issue is. So there are a number of reasons why people are increasingly using social media these days. And then you would give the reasons or the causes. Another example, there are a number of reasons why traveling abroad has become popular. And you would give the reasons. Really, this structure is really useful because you can use it for other things as well. Maybe the topic of your paragraph will be about solutions. So here's a nice little structure for you. This one is there are steps that can be taken, and then the rest of it you can fill in with whatever the issue is. So there are steps that can be taken to entice young people to once again spend quality time with their friends outside the virtual world. So there you go, a long issue. Next one, a bit shorter. There are steps that can be taken that could deal with this problem. Usually that sentence will be fine because the previous paragraph is usually the issue and the last paragraph is the solutions. So often you can just say that bottom one there, that could deal with this problem that I just talked about in the previous paragraph. Really useful little sentence, that one. A variation on this is there are actions that can be taken. So there are actions that can be taken to deal with these issues, and then you would give the actions after that. In other words, the actions are the solutions. Steps, actions, they're both other words for solutions. Let's talk about conclusions now. So maybe your essay was about problems and solutions. So this would be an example structure that would help you with that. So the example structure is in conclusion, while the problem, there are potential solutions in the form of, and then you paraphrase your solutions. So for example, in conclusion, while automation is likely to displace many workers and cause significant social upheaval, that would be paraphrasing the problems that I talk about in my body paragraph 1. There are potential solutions in the form of the solutions from body paragraph 2. So taxation being placed on companies using automation and the implementation of a universal basic income. This is from one of my example essays you can find in the example essay pack. Another common essay type is discussion and opinion essays. So discuss both views and give your own opinion essays. In this one, you can use that structure we looked at earlier, although X, I believe Y, or while X, I believe Y. So here's an example. In conclusion, while body paragraph 1 position, providing more convenient access to quality sporting facilities may encourage some to exercise more. Other side, I believe that other more direct and proven measures such as quality universal healthcare and sugar taxes would be more effective. So body 1 acknowledging how this is good in some cases. Body 2 looking at how in most cases this is my position. Really useful structure, that one. This one is a variation on that same structure. So it just gives a little bit more of an emphasis on your position, just to make sure your position is extra clear. So we could say, in conclusion, while X, so in the short term, studying STEM subjects is likely to lead to stable and well-paid employment, then you've got the other side. In the long term, it is unlikely that many of these positions will remain. But if you feel like, maybe my position isn't clear enough, you might want to add one more sentence here. And then you can say, therefore, I believe that, and repeat your position. Young people should be encouraged to study university courses that suit their interests. So you're doing the same sort of thing as the previous example, but this one you're doing a 2-sentence conclusion and you're really emphasizing your position with a therefore I believe that and adding your position. So this is another useful structure for discussion and opinion essays, or any essay where you're looking at 2 sides and you're having to give your opinion. This could be an outweigh essay as well, or even a normal opinion essay where you wanted to look at both sides of an issue or give context for your position. Okay guys, I hope that video was helpful. As I said before, apply these with flexibility. Make sure they're being applied to appropriate questions. Don't feel you have to use them, but hopefully they were useful, in some cases for you. That's the end of the series. I wish you all the best with your IELTS test. And good luck.